we are going to creatively trespass. And what that means is we're going to test the limits of creativity. We're going to test the limits of creativity in the streets. We're going to test the limits of creativity in the workspace. We're going to test the limits of creativity at the World Domination Summit. Are you ready? Instead of starting at the beginning, we're going to begin at the end. So will everybody please stand up? On the count of 3, I want you to give yourselves and each other the best standing ovation you've got. Okay. 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 Stay standing emotionally, but sit down physically. So, the next time when you leave here and you find yourself sharing your most creative ideas in an all-hands meeting, exactly, that's why I said it. Or when you're one of James's students and you're pushing against the status quo to bring more outsiders inside, you remember this moment, you feel it in your body, and know that we are with you, cheering you on the whole effing way. So I've spent my entire career bringing more creativity into less overtly creative spaces, like the workspace, like the streets, and at conferences. And I learned 3 astounding things that actually compelled me to write a book called Creative Trespassing. And the first thing is, we do not need to work in a job or a field that is uniquely creative in order to be uniquely creative within our work, within the world. Thank you. Clearly my mom is here tonight. Number 2, whenever we are confronted by limiting beliefs, obstacles, or problems, if we address or confront them with our creativity, and by creativity I mean imagination, we will experience unlimited solutions, ideas, innovations every single time. I know it to be true, I'll show it. And number 3, and probably the most important thing that compelled me to pursue this idea of creative trespassing, is that when we dare to break the rules that are no longer working for anyone in order to invite everyone in, we're going to get pushback. We might even get pushed down. And that's how you know you're on the right path. It's true. And so I'd like to share some stories with you on my creative trespassing journey, moments when I was pushed down, pushed back by myself and others, and how I learned to spring back up and take a leap of faith into the unknown over and over again. And it starts in a museum. Who here goes to museums? Oh, keep your hands up if you go to contemporary art museums. God, you're so cultured. Ooh. I wish I felt like that when a director of a contemporary art museum called me up and wanted to give me a job. He was like, we have this new space in the museum. We want to create new programs, new revenue streams, and new audiences. And we want to bring outsiders in. We think you'd be great for that. And I'm like, oh, contemporary art freaks me out. I mean, first of all, museums as a kid I thought were kind of like austere and uninviting. And if you didn't know the rules, you were screwed, especially contemporary art, right? It's like, excuse me, don't touch that. And I'm like, oh, whoa, okay, that's cool. Why aren't you touching that? It's an immersive piece. You need to dive into that shit. You know what I'm talking about. Portland, come on. You are an immersive piece, Portland. So I remember starting my first day of work at Scottsdale Museum of Contemporary Art. Anybody remember their first day of work? Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Wait, I didn't even need to see you. I felt like, oh, yeah, it was awesome and terrifying. Me too. And so the director at the time was introducing me around to the real curators. I was a program coordinator. And he was like, this is Tania Katan. She has a degree in theater, and we could use a little drama around here. And the curators were like, no. This is Tania Katan. She's a racy storyteller, and she uses that in her press releases. This is Tania Katan. She thinks outside of the box, and we need that inside the museum. And then he showed me to my office, which was a cubicle. Thank you for getting that joke in advance. Which was not a joke, it was just a harsh reality. Who here has ever worked in or currently works in a cubicle? Oh my God, wait, it's so great. You guys are like, I can't even raise my hand. I don't know what my range of motion is anymore. True story. So I'm in my tiny space, and I start to do what any good theater practitioner would do when the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune were hitting her in the pie hole. I launched into a soliloquy. For those of you who don't know what a soliloquy is, it's when one loses one's shit out loud in front of a live audience. Yes. It goes something like this. Tanya, I can't believe you work here. Did you sign the contract? Tanya, you are me. You know we signed the contract. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm in a little box inside a larger box. This is so meta. Doesn't the director look like the master from Doctor Who? That's why he hired you to control your mind. I'm like, oh. And at some point in my soliloquy to an audience of none, I realized, holy shit, my background in theater actually trained me to think inside the box, not outside of it. I mean, theater people, we know, we are obsessed. We have box seats, box offices, black box theaters. We love boxes. I know my way inside and outside of a box. Wait, what did you think I meant? Happy Pride, ladies. So, I did the thing that I was trained to do as an artist, and I know there are a lot of, we're creators, we're entrepreneurs, we're artists, and there's one question we always have in our back pocket, and that question is, what if? That question allows for possibilities beyond this space and time. And so I'm like, well, what if the cubicle wasn't the shittiest space in the museum, but the best space in the museum? And what if, just like me, other people felt like museums were austere and uninviting, and I could show them that museum culture is just as weird, mundane, and extraordinary as working anywhere else. So I started a series. My first program was an online series called Out of the Cubicle. And I had a budget of nothing. Anybody work for a nonprofit? Yeah. So I didn't have a team. I had a budget of so nothing. We'll talk later. And so I assembled my own unsanctioned team. I hired a videographer who was in school, so I paid her nothing, but fed her and was nice to her. And then I stole an AV guy from the theater across the street. I got in with the docents. They're fantastic, hey, ladies. And I assembled basically a video production team. And then I'm like, okay, well, what kind of rituals happen in this work culture that happen in other work cultures? And then I found out the best thing ever. Have you heard of this thing called Employee of the Month? Holy shit, I love that so much. And so I went to the head of HR, of course, because I was astounded by this thing, and I'm like, excuse me, how do I win Employee of the Month? And the head of HR, she's like, oh my God, Tanya, you don't win it, you like earn it. And I'm like, then I will earn your vote and win it. And here's what happened. Tanya, how did this corporately structured organization respond to your shenanigans? Funny you should ask. She's not working, she's just running around having fun. As if work and fun are mutually exclusive. And in fact, I was able to qualify and quantify that I was just doing my job. People came into the museum through the videos. First, they came in through Scottsdale, where we lived. Then they came in from all around the United States, then internationally. Thousands of people were watching it, so I could quantify numbers. I'll show you I checked all the boxes. This is my job. And I found a cute emoji to boot. And I had time to change world domination to world determination. I'm on fire! The point being is that I'm guessing that most of these items on my job responsibility list are on your job responsibility list too. And I chose a wildly different way to get there. There are hundreds of ways to meet your goals. You get to choose how you get there. As long as you can quantify, qualify, and you're supporting the organization, fucking do it. Okay, this was a moment. Are there any CIOs in the house? Chief Information Officers? Great. I'm going to tell some jokes. Okay, does anybody know a CIO? Fantastic. Okay, so I was invited to talk about creative trespassing at a Chief Information Officer Summit. And just so you know, I show up and there are 500 people all wearing suits. The colors ranged from dark blue to black. And it was a Saturday, so they didn't have to wear a suit. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to show you I'm not a liar. I'm not a liar. So I am having a moment of a limiting belief. You guys know what limiting beliefs are. It's that belief that that is an obstacle from you living your dreams or you living with more creativity and joy. My limiting belief is constantly, I don't belong here. This was a great situation to use it in. So I'm panicking. I'm like, oh my God. And the guy who's speaking before me is killing it. He's talking about AI and IA and VR or whatever. And the crowd is going wild. They're like, and I'm seriously losing my shit. I'm like, oh, where's an exit? And I'm like, unless they want some sort of weird rant about TMIs or UTIs or BMWs, I am SOL, And then the guy, the MC grabs the microphone and says, thank you, Steve. And everybody's like, yay. And we'd like to welcome to the stage Tania Katan. She is a CIO. And I'm like, oh, hell no, I'm not. Freaking out. And he's like, Chief Inspiration Officer. I know. And it was that... What a creative trespasser that dude was. And he taught me something. He taught me something about the fact that many times I've found myself, I've worked with companies all over the globe and teams, and we feel sometimes that there's a disconnect between who we are and what we do. And that moment was a beautiful reminder. It allowed me to create an exercise that I'll give you now quickly. Oh, if you buy the book, it's in there, another. They're called, I call these exercises productive disruptions because when we break the habits and patterns that are keeping us stuck, we actually get more work done and we have fun doing it. It doesn't have to be drudgery. So this is an exercise I've used with companies you will know about in the world. People, teams, homes, everybody loves it. My mom's a big fan of it. Okay. This is my favorite quote in the world. And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive. Audre Lorde, love. So when I was 21 years old, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Spoiler alert, I'm alive, so there's that. Everybody gets concerned, like, is she dead? I'm not. I, and at 21, I was sort of like this radical lesbian, questioning all things. And somebody gave me Audre Lorde's book, The Cancer Journals. And in it, I found a kindred spirit. I found a fellow lesbian who also didn't get reconstructive surgery and who was questioning this system that seemed to champion breasts rather than the people attached to them. And then I should tell you right now, I'm sorry, I'm an overachiever. So I got breast cancer again. What? I know. Again, I'm still alive. But I got breast cancer at 31 years old. And at that moment, what helped me endure chemotherapy and surgery was I got into running. And by running, anybody who's been through chemotherapy, that's like an optimistic turn. I was just leaning forward with no cells and hoping for the best, But the act of engaging my body in something healthy allowed me to kind of reclaim it. And so I decided that when I was done with chemotherapy and I felt all better, that I was going to run a race for the cure, something to support my people. And I was going to do it without my shirt on. What? That's crazy. Yes, it was. So what I decided to do that is because when I was diagnosed, even the second time, I knew what a scar looked like the second time because I had one. But when I was going through it initially, I didn't see what that looked like, and that was scary. And I thought, what if I could show people what a scar looked like and it made it less scary? And what if, in fact, I am a healthy body in a different form? And so I showed up at the race. That's me. Anybody runners in here? Okay. So runners, we know that when you show up at a race, there's not 10 people, there's like 10,000 people. And I started to freak out. I was like, oh my gosh, what if I take off my shirt and expose all these scars and people freak out, or they avoid my gaze, or they just walk away? And there was a woman standing like 3 feet away from me. And I'm like, maybe I know this is a spectator sport, but I don't know if she wanted to experience this kind of spectacle. And so I'm like, I'm going to let her know. And I said, excuse me, in a few minutes, I'm going to be taking off my shirt, exposing 2 mastectomy scars, and I didn't want you to freak out. And she turned to me and she said, can I hug you? And the reason why I'm sharing this story with a room full of creatives and entrepreneurs and humans is because this was a moment where I inadvertently embraced my flaws and my awkwardness and my scars. It was like I knew in advance that those are the reasons why we're alive, that those are the reasons why we deem ourselves artists and creatives and entrepreneurs, right? Like when we embrace our flaws and our scars and our awkwardness, they become our superpowers. That's what I realized, and that's why I'm sharing this story, because that's what we need when we go out into the world and we attempt to be creative. Talk about leaps of faith, suspension of disbelief. Do I have any theater people in the house? Yeah! Okay, so suspension of disbelief, as you know, is one of the core principles that they teach you in theater school. It's this idea that comes from Samuel Taylor Coleridge, a poet and philosopher, and it's that when we gather together in a creative space, like in a theater, we collectively agree to let go of everything we know about the world outside. All assumptions and perceptions we throw out the window, and together we collectively take a creative leap of faith into the unknown. And that's how I landed in technology. Okay, you think surviving cancer is hard? Nothing compared to jumping into technology. So I got a phone call from a tech company called Axosoft, and they're like, Tania, we'd like to talk to you about software. And I'm like, I know nothing about software. Yes, I'll take the meeting. And I showed up, and the CEO, LaDan, is like, we really like your energy. That's why we brought you here. And I'm like, I like your energy. That's why I came here. She's like, but we don't want to offer you a job. And I'm like, I already have a job. That's cool. I don't, like, why am I here? And she's like, but we've always wanted to have an evangelist. You would make a great evangelist. And I was like, an evangelist? Like can I get a witness? Does everybody feel the Spirit? I said, so I said, that will freak my Jewish mom out. Yes, I would love to evangelize with you. So I leaped into my first day of work at Axosoft, and I'm like, what is this super cool software that I will be evangelizing about? And she's like, oh, it's a project management software for software developers, you know, B2B, SaaS. And I'm like, your lips are moving, but nothing's coming out. I mean, the only thing I understood was B2B. That's when you convert one of your bedrooms into a charming hotel. Like, I got that. And then they were saying all these things I knew nothing about. I was like, Linux, that's a character from the Peanuts gang. Adoy. And then everybody's walking around, you know, open source. And I'm like, please don't kiss that person. I think that there might be a problem. Okay, we're gonna move on. Okay, so I'm there for like literally 2 months, and then my boss comes to my colleague, Sarah, and me, and she's like, we are gonna sponsor a big Women in Technology event, and I wanna show up in a big way, come up with a big idea. This was 2015. The big idea was, oh, you know, try to solve the problem of women in technology. Oh, no problem. And so we brainstormed. Basically, she would have been happy. We had like a little table at the conference. She would have been happy if we're like, you know, let's do some pink cotton candy. Like, it could have been fun, whatever. But I'm a crazy overachiever, as you know. And so I was like, okay, let's brainstorm. And Sarah and I were brainstorming, and we came up with nothing. So I went for a walk, and I started thinking about women in the tech space, and women in lots of spaces, and how oftentimes women aren't seen or celebrated for the superheroes they are. And I thought, well, what if we could take theater principles and weave them into technology, right? Like, what if we could suspend disbelief and jump into a space where women made up half of the C-level positions, right? Yeah. And what if we could leap into an area where women were paid as much as their male counterparts? And what if we could land in a classroom where a 12-year-old girl is taking a coding class because she sees herself in the female teacher, right? Because she sees herself in the girl sitting next to her. Because she sees herself. And in that moment, I saw a symbol in my mind's eye. And you're familiar with her. I will show her to you. She's the bathroom lady. And I knew that this symbol was easily recognizable across genders and cultures. And I brought the symbol back, and I'm like, Sarah, I have a symbol. And Sarah's like, great, old lady, because I'm old for technology. Because I'm 107. But I couldn't shake the shape of her dress. Yes, it's a dress, but it's a triangle, and other things are triangles too. And I thought, oh, I think she's wearing a cape. And so I was like, I couldn't get my brain off of that trajectory. And so I printed out the vector, and I took a pencil, and I drew some things. And she was there. And I showed her to Sarah, and Sarah's like, oh, it was never a dress. And I'm like, oh, that's it. And I'm going to show you what happened next.
When Tania and Sarah came to me and they gave me their pitch on this idea, I immediately saw it and I thought, wow, yes, I completely agree. This was big.
Initially, I thought of a symbol that was easily recognizable, and I thought of the bathroom lady, because she's everywhere. She's everywhere in the world. That lady gets around. So I printed out an image of the symbol, and I took a pencil and started drawing some lines, and very quickly she had a cape on, and she was fully present, and it was as if she'd been there this whole time, and I just hadn't seen her.
We were at the conference, so we were pretty busy, you know, we were on social media. We saw the first tweet, and we were like, wow, this is great, you know, someone is really connecting with the image, and then Huffington Post retweeted it. That was kind of the beginning of it going viral.
And then bam, in 24 American hours, it just blew up. I think people were very excited to see that they aren't just a symbol of the mundane, but they're actually a symbol of the extraordinary.
We're trying to create a community and a forum. So a woman was telling us about how she had showed the image to her young son and daughter, and then later they had gone to the restroom, and the kids were excited, and they said, hey mom, we're going into the superhero's bathroom. And I thought, that's how we measure success, is the next generation. Now they are seeing things differently, and their perceptions have been shifted.
We started having an overwhelming request for merchandise. However, we didn't want to commoditize the conversations that were taking place on It Was Never Addressed. So we thought, let's start a STEAM scholarship with ASU, and we plan on fueling that scholarship with the merchandise. Tania was brought into Axsoft as an evangelist. And part of the things that she is phenomenal with is public speaking.
I'm not a liar.
It's only natural for her to be popping up maybe in your city soon, where she will be speaking on this campaign and helping keep the movement going.
It Was Never Addressed campaign is really a story, and it's also a proposition for other people to share their stories. So yes, I will be going out into the world and speaking publicly about It Was Never Addressed. You can invite me to your hometown. There's no crowd that's too small or too large.
Because if we see women differently, we see the world differently. If we see women differently, we see the world differently. If we see women differently, we see the world differently. Text drop.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. You're so sweet, and I also want to be mindful of time. So I no longer work for Axsoft, but what a beautiful creative legacy to leave behind. A lot of times we're in jobs and we're like, this place sucks. My legacy is going to be dirty dishes in the shared sink. Peace. In this moment of maturity, I left something that we continue to share together. So I'm just going to tell you one thing, and then the last moment is for you. I want to do something with you. So I have a book. It's in the bookstore, Creative Trespassing. If you buy it, I sign it and give you a sticker. If you don't, I give you the stink eye. No, okay. But I'll be out at the break, and I'm happy to sign them. That's my email address. They're not on my cards, so I'm happy to give it to you. If you're ready to creatively trespass in any way, let me know. And the last moment is for you. So here's the deal. We're going to do a quick mind's eye journey. And for those of you who have never done one, all you need to do is close your eyes, and I will guide it, and you receive. So if you wouldn't mind closing your eyes, please. So what I want you to imagine is a limiting belief that you hold that is an obstacle between you and your creativity. A limiting belief that you hold that's an obstacle between you and living with more joy in your life, okay? And I want you to feel where that's coming up. Is it in your shoulders? Is it in your belly? Your back? And once you feel it, I want you to acknowledge it and then to gently let it go. This is a much longer process, but for the sake of now, just let it go for now. And when you've let it go, I want you to open your eyes and stand up, please. And now that we let something go, we can take a leap of faith together. And so what we're going to do, this isn't like aerobics. It's not about, first just gently bend your knees, just gently. And this is not about jumping out or anything like that. It can be a gentle jump like this. The most important thing is that we do it together. Does that make sense? Okay, so don't knock yourself on so gently. You signed waivers, didn't you? No. So on the count of 3, we're gonna jump together. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.